Alright guys, I gave you a note sheet, but if you would turn it over to the blank side and then copy down this picture just at the top. We are going to review what we did yesterday, and then we're going to add one thing onto this. So copy down this picture at the top of your sheet. I figured it, instead of making you use your notebook paper, you could use my paper. Save, part of a tree. Okay, so we talked about 3 types of angles yesterday. Let's just review and see if we know our different types. What's the first type that we talked about? Or one of them? Alternate interior angles. And those are congruent or supplementary? Congruent. There were 2 pairs of alternate interior angles. What are the 2 pairs? 3 and 6 and 4 and 5. So we would say angle 3 is congruent to angle 6 and angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. So remember, alternate means opposite sides of the transversal and interior means inside the parallel lines. Okay? What was another type we talked about? Corresponding angles. Good. And corresponding angles are? Congruent or supplementary? Congruent. Good. Give me a couple pairs. There's actually 4 pairs of corresponding angles. Name one. 1 and 5. What else? 3 and 7. What else? 2 and 6. And last? 4 and 8. Very good. So corresponding ones are ones that are on the same side of the transversal and they are congruent. So it's kind of like we skip one. We skip the linear pair and we go to the next one. Now, our third kind of angles are same side interior. And same side interior are supplementary. Yep. So now we're going to add some angles to equal 180. And there are 2 pair of same side interior angles. And those 2 are, very good, angles 3 and angle 5 and angle 4 and angle 6. And remember, those are supplementary. So a lot of times I will say same side supplementary, same side supplementary, because the rest are congruent. Okay? Those are the 3 types we went over yesterday. And the things that you need to know about them are how to identify them, so which one is which, what pair belongs to what, and knowing if they're congruent or supplementary. There is a 4th kind that we can talk about. The 4th kind, and I heard some people talking about this yesterday while working on homework, is called alternate exterior angles. And alternate exterior angles are also congruent. So exterior means what? Outside the parallel line. So that would be like 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. So which pair are alternate exterior angles? 1 and 8. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 8, and the other set would be 2 and 7. So you can identify these alternate exterior angles as well. So grab your index card. On the front, write alternate exterior angles and draw this picture. So very similar to yesterday. Write alternate exterior angles on the front and draw the picture. Then on the back, you can write congruent and then the two pairs of angles that are congruent. So alternate exterior angles on the front with the picture, and then on the back, just write your two pairs of angles. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 7. That would go on the back. But make sure you got the picture on the front because it's not going to make much sense if you just put what angles are congruent on it. All right, any questions so far? These 4 types of angles are very, very, very important. They are also the only 4 ways that you can prove lines are parallel, which is our main topic for today. We're going to prove why are lines parallel to each other using these 4 types of angles. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you see vertical angles in this list? Nope, you cannot use vertical angles to prove that lines are parallel. Okay, do you see complementary angles in this list? Angles that add up to be 90. That cannot prove that lines are parallel. And although we use supplementary, we only use it when we talk about same side interior angles. So it has to be one of these 4 to prove that lines are parallel. All right, so grab your second index card and you guys are going to write this down on your second index card. This example can go on your paper that I gave you though. So just write down this stuff. You can write proven lines parallel on the front and then these 5 lines on the back. Now notice at the front of this, it talks about the converse, right? What does the converse do? We just talked about those statements in the last unit. The converse switches the hypothesis and the conclusion. Those switch. So yesterday we said if you have one of these, or if lines are parallel, you have one of these three. The converse today says if you have one of these three, then the lines are parallel. So it's just opposite of what we did yesterday. So we gave you the parallel lines to begin with yesterday, and you found the measures of the angles. So now we're going to give you the measures of the angles, and you're going to tell if the lines are parallel. So once you have your index card written, don't forget to draw that example down on your note sheet that I gave you. Now, in this list, there are three types of angles. The corresponding, the alternate interior, which are both congruent, and then you have your same side interior, which are supplementary. You could also throw on there your alternate exterior angles. So if you wanted to add that to the list, you could put a little star and put also works for alternate exterior angles, which is fine. Does it work with vertical angles? Nope. Okay, remember that's a no. Doesn't work. So it just has to be one of those three, or again, alternate exterior can be thrown on there. Some textbooks include alternate exterior and some do not. So it just kind of goes back and forth. Don't forget to draw down that example on your note sheet. By the way, just to let you guys know, you are in groups today based on your favorite meal that you chose on your information sheet. So there were a lot of people who chose dinner, though. A lot of you like to eat dinner. And then I guess I'll call dinner supper. Some people call dinner like lunch. Sometimes I call dinner lunch, like Sunday dinner. Is that lunchtime? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But y'all were either snackers or dinners and then a few lunches in the middle. So nobody liked breakfast in here. You know what? I heard this thing. I heard that they talked about breakfast as being the most important meal of the day as part of some propaganda to sell more cereal. Kind of makes sense. I understand. That is the dilemma. Do you brush teeth before you eat breakfast? You brush teeth after you eat breakfast? Or do you even eat breakfast? I guess that's a conversation for a different time, though. We should probably focus on our math. All right, here is our last problem that we're going to do before we move on to the other side of the sheet. So here's our example. Do we know that lines M and N are parallel? We do not. They do not have the little red arrows on there. Can we prove that they're parallel? Possibly. We have these two angles listed and they are congruent. Are these two angles alternate interior or corresponding angles? They're corresponding angles. Since these angles are corresponding and congruent, we can now prove that line M and N are parallel. And sometimes it's just writing a sentence that says that. So write the sentence. Since the given angles are congruent and corresponding, we can say M is parallel to N. Remember, you can use that notation that we talked about yesterday. The two slanted lines means parallel. And sometimes when we do proofs, which you will see in a minute, the only way we can do it is to write a sentence for it like we did here. So you have to state what type of angles you have, and then you can say that you have parallel lines. So since those two angles are congruent and corresponding, we can say that those two lines, M and N, are parallel. Does that make sense? All right. Once you have that written down, flip your paper over, your handout that I gave you, because those are the sample problems that we are going to do together. All right, it says in these instructions, these are the same instructions that you're going to see on your quiz and in your homework, so I wanted to make sure you had those instructions written. Using the given information, which lines, if any, can you conclude are parallel? Justify each conclusion with a theorem or postulate. So remember, a theorem or postulate is just a fact. What we're going to do is we're going to state the type of angles, and that's your theorem or postulate. We're going to keep this kind of simple. Now, I'm going to be marking on this picture a lot, and then I'm going to go through and erase it. So let's look at our first angles that were given. It says angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3. Now remember, if supplementary, the only choice we have is what type of angles? Same side interior. Are these two angles same side interior angles? Yes, they are. So can we prove that lines are parallel? Yes, we can. So for this problem, you can say SSIA, same side interior angles. Now, which set of lines are parallel? Is it A and B or L and M? What lines did 2 and 3 touch? Did they touch A and B or did they touch L and M? A and B. If we were to highlight those again, it's here and here. And if you were to trace out angle 2, it uses those two lines. Angle 3 uses those two lines. So does it touch M at all? No. So our answer here would be A and B. That's the ones that it's in between. So for your other part that you say which lines are parallel, you would say A is parallel to B. And it is perfectly fine if you shorthand this for these problems because there's not a lot of room to write. Okay, our next angles that we have are angles 6 and 7. And it says that they are supplementary. So our only question is, since it says supplementary, are they same side interior angles? Are they? Yes, they are. Which lines would be parallel? Which lines would be parallel? A and B again. Okay, our next one talks about supplementary again, angle 4 and angle 8. What do you know about 4 and 8? They're not same side interior. They're just a linear pair. They are supplementary, but does that prove lines are parallel? No. Remember, that's the question. Are the lines parallel? If they're side by side like that, it does not prove lines are parallel. You say no, and that's it. Now, the next one we have talks about angle 7 is 70 degrees. So this angle here, we could just turn it into a 70 degrees here. And angle 9, way over here, is 110 degrees. Now, what do you know about 70 and 110? They make 180, so they're supplementary. Did those two angles in those two spots prove that lines are parallel? Are they same side interior angles since they're supplementary? No, they're not. Same side interior to 70 was 6, right? And that's not angle 6, that's angle 9. So does that prove that our lines are parallel? No, it does not. So that one is another no. So it has to be same side interior angles to be supplementary. Our last several ones all say congruent. So we're just looking at, are they either what two things? If it says congruent, it's got to be corresponding or alternate interior or exterior, really. Okay, so let's highlight angle 1 and angle 3. Here's 3, here's 1. Are those a special type of angle? They are corresponding. So for this one, I would write CORR for corresponding. And what lines would be parallel? Is it A and B Or is it L and M? A and B again. All right, question 9 is talking about angles 9 and 12. Well, what type of angles are 9 and 12? Vertical. Does vertical prove lines are parallel? So what do I say here? None or nope. Or just no. Either way. All right, question 10 is talking about angles 3 and 6. Bless you, bless you. What type of angles are 3 and 6? They are alternate interior. Which lines would be parallel? Good. And I would just say AIA, alternate interior angles. Line A is parallel to B, because notice they're in between lines A and B. All right, next we have 2 and 10. Now this one might be a good idea to turn that paper sideways, because usually we see them in that kind of a vertical line. So if you turn this sideways, what kind of angles are those? They are corresponding. Which lines are parallel now? L and M are parallel because you had to change what direction your paper went. And if you also trace them out, angle 2 is here, angle 10 is here. They're touching lines L and M and A. It doesn't even touch line B. They're drawn in lowercase cursive, so lowercase cursive L's kind of look like that. Yeah, a lot of people think that they're E's, huh? Kind of look like E's, cursive E's. All right, our next group that we have is 1 and 6. What type of angles are 1 and 6? So what do I say for my answer here? There you go. We say no. Vertical does not prove lines are parallel. All right, we got 8 and 6. So here's 6, here's 8. They are corresponding. Which lines are parallel? Because corresponding is one that we can use. A and B. That's right. Those don't even touch line M. So it must be A and B. 11 and 7. Here's 7. Here's 11. Almost. What is 7 corresponding to? Not 11. 7's corresponding to 5. I said Kevin. 7 is corresponding to 5 because these are on the same line. So can I jump from this part all the way over here? No. So this one is too far of a jump, so you say no. So it's got to be on the same part. It's got to have the same transversal to jump from one to the other. Okay, so our last one is 5 and 10. Here's 5, here's 10. They are alternate interior. What do you have to do with your paper? Turn it sideways in order to see it. So if I have to turn my paper sideways, what lines are parallel? L and M. Does that make sense on how to figure out which one we have and which lines are parallel? So what's the 3 that we can use? Corresponding, alternate interior, or same side interior. If you have alternate exterior, I'm okay with you guys doing that too. All right, last thing that we're going to do together is we are going to do this proof together. I know how much we love these proofs, but we're back to a 2-column proof, right? So, first statement says angle 1 is supplementary to angle 2. Why is that true? It's given. Remember, that's our easiest one to look at. Whatever is given, write the word given. So we were given angle 1 is supplementary to angle 2. So the next statement says angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. Why can we do that? Exactly. Good. I'm glad you remembered. This one is the definition of supplementary. Because what does it mean to be supplementary? You add them up to equal 180, right? So it says these are supplementary, so we can take them and add them to equal 180. Now, next in our 2-column proof, it says angle 2 plus angle 3 equals 180. Well, I haven't talked about angle 3 any up here, so I probably need to look at my picture. What do you notice about angle 2 and 3? They're a linear pair. What's the definition of a linear pair? They equal to 180. And what are we doing here? So here we would say linear pair. That linear pair where they're adjacent and make a line, we're going to add them up to equal 180. Now here we're adding angle 1 and angle 2 to equal angle 2 and angle 3. I see that addition up here in the steps before it, right? So how do I go from these 2 steps to get to this step? So angle 1 and angle 2 equal 180. Angle 2 and angle 3 equal 180. So why do they equal each other? No, you're right. You can say substitution. What's the other one that you can use? Transitive. You could say either one of those. So substitution or transitive, because they both equal 180, so they both equal each other. So substitution property or transitive property would work. I would accept either one of those. So remember, reflexive is the same thing equals the same thing. So that would be like angle 2 equals angle 2. And symmetric is when you have angle 2 plus angle 3 equals angle 3 plus angle 2, where you just flip the order. All right, so what happened from this statement where we're adding stuff together to get to the next statement, angle 1 equals angle 3? Good, because what was subtracted? Angle 2. So with our subtraction property of equality, you can make yourself a little note. We subtracted angle 2 from both sides. And then that brings us to our last thing about saying lines are parallel. So usually when you have our last statement, you never write the word prove. Don't do that. But you look back up to the one above it. So it's saying since angle 1 equals angle 3, these lines are parallel. So look at angle 1 and angle 3. What do you know about angle 1 and 3? They're corresponding angles. So here's where you just have to write a sentence, okay? Since angle 1 and angle 3 are corresponding and congruent, then A is parallel to B. My board does not like me. That is a B. So anytime you're doing that last sentence where it wants you to say why these lines are parallel, you have to say since the angles before it are whatever. So it could be alternate interior and congruent, corresponding and congruent, alternate exterior and congruent, or our last one, same side interior and supplementary. So it has to be one of those 4 that we've talked about today. And then you say, then the lines are parallel. That's the converse of our parallel lines. If we have one of those 4 angles, the converse says the lines are parallel. All right, now what I want us to do is some group work together. I think it's really important to talk through some things, especially when you have proofs to do. So I'm going to give you guys 4 proofs, and what I want you to do is stay on the same proof at the same time. Go through it line by line and figure out what should go in those proof marks. Agree in a group, and once you finish each proof, call me over and then I will check it. And then for video purposes, I'm going to finish up these statements. So once that group work is done and I've checked it all, then you have some homework to do. The worksheet that's listed there is the worksheet that I'm giving out in class. Okay, the end.